Now, let's get to our guest. We are pleased to have Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene from Georgia. She is coming to us from Washington. She's a book out this month called MTG, her initials. That makes sense. And this is the first time I've ever spoken to the Congresswoman. Nice to have you here in the no spin zone. All right. I got a bunch of stuff I want to ask you, and it's not a debate. I'm not going to try to convince you of anything. Donald Trump still harkens back to the 2020 election, saying it's a fraud. Okay? I have advised him that that's not a good strategy. He should be looking ahead and running on his record, not relitigating the election. Do you believe that Trump's strategy of going back to 20 is a good strategy?
Well, actually, Bill, I spend a lot of time on the campaign trail with President Trump and on his behalf. And his Agenda 47, I think, is exactly the way to look forward. And I'm very impressed with it. I think it focuses on the American people and the issues that Americans truly care about. But when it comes to the 2020 election, I do believe there was election fraud, and I have a personal story with that. My own ex-husband showed up to vote and in person, and he was told that he had already voted by absentee ballot when he had not. He had to sign a waiver relinquishing an absentee ballot he never requested, never voted on, and he had to do so standing in line with a line full of people that were told the very same thing. And right now, there's some court cases going through Georgia that I think are very compelling, that shows that there was many absentee ballots that were replicated, and that is election fraud. So I think election integrity is so important. We should never lose sight of it. But at the same time, President Trump is doing a great job presenting Agenda 47 for the future of our country.
All right. Do you know why President Trump did not appoint a special counsel to investigate the election before he left office? Do you know?
I do not know.
Okay. I don't know either. That would have been the way to go. Okay. Second thing, Ukraine aid. So the United States is giving about $45 billion so far, NATO about $35 billion. Do you support that?
I do not. And I've been one of the few members of Congress that have voted against the money going to Ukraine from the beginning. You see, I'm unapologetically American, and I believe that I represent the American people in the United States Congress. And our problems are so great here in this country. I think we should be focusing at home. Also, it's important to note that Ukraine is not a NATO member nation. And that's something significant that often gets left out in these conversations about supporting Ukraine. We have sent we have approved $113 billion to go to Ukraine. That's over 10% of our defense budget. While our border is being overrun every single day, and I serve on the Homeland Committee, it's been overrun by over 10 million people, and there are now over 1.8 million gotaways in our country. We don't know where these people come from. We don't know who they are. They could be terrorists, human traffickers, child sex traffickers, all kinds of criminals. And I believe these issues are so serious, and they're so serious because this is what the people in my district talk to me about, and this is what people across the country talk to me about.
All right.
They don't want to fund a war in Ukraine.
Would you support continuing aid to Ukraine if the asylum situation is revised? That's what's being talked about in the House and the Senate now. A deal. All right? Tighten up asylum in return. Would you support that?
I've been in some of these meetings, Bill. Actually, we had a conference meeting about it this morning. I do not support giving money to Ukraine. They're stealing our money. There's evidence of fraud there, and the Ukrainians are being rich on American taxpayer dollars.
Now, I disagree with you because I know that Vladimir Putin will continue his encroachment. Now, I'm sure you know this, but he's taken a big slice of Georgia, the country Georgia. He controls Belarus. If he controls Ukraine, then he's right on the border. He can put all his weaponry right aimed at NATO. And then he goes into the Baltic countries that are right on his border as well. Finland just sealed its border because of the intrusion of Russians. So I submit to you, Congresswoman, we would pay 100 times more in 5 years than we're paying now because Putin's not going to stop. The second point is, if Putin's allowed to win in Ukraine, say goodbye to Taiwan. Would the Chinese taking over Taiwan bother you?
Well, let me first preface this. Bill, there's no evidence showing Putin saying that these things are going to happen, just as you suggested. These are the talking points that come out of Washington.
Well, wait, he's already
foreign war.
He's
the evidence
already
isn't there, and I won't apologize for supporting our country and wanting to fix
you
our
don't
problems.
have to, Congresswoman.
Yes,
you don't have to apologize for anything. You don't have to apologize for anything.
Question.
Wait, the record is that Putin seized Crimea under Obama. We did nothing. The record is that he sliced off 20% of Georgia. We did nothing. He controls the entire country of Belarus. We can't do anything about that. And now if he takes over Ukraine, he's got his weapons within hundreds of miles of all European capitals. This is an evil man. If you know your history, all right, Putin is Hitler light. That's who he is. Okay, I got a bunch of questions. Israel, do you support American dollars going to help Israel?
I have voted to support Israel, especially with their Iron Dome. Also supported their lasers. I just voted this week on 2 resolutions supporting Israel and their right to exist.
Okay, so you support
another resolution that condemns Hamas because they are terrorists backed by Iran. However, here's our problem, Bill, and I think this is really important for people to understand. The Biden administration wants to control that war, and they want to control how Israel fights their enemy, Hamas. And I would argue Israel has been very successful thus far because Washington is not controlling them. They've been able to bomb however they want to bomb, wherever they want to bomb. They've been able to send in their troops to go after Hamas, which I completely support Israel in doing. What I am totally against is the Biden administration going in and trying to control Israel and how they fight their enemies.
You and I agree on that. My congressman here is George Santos. He is a grifter. There's no doubt he is. I want to see him expelled from the House of Representatives. Do you?
I'm actually not going to vote for the expel resolution, but I support your right as a voter to make changes in who represents you in Congress. The reason why I'm voting no is this comes down to campaign finance violations. And if we set the record where any member of Congress can be expelled on campaign finance violations, which I think are very bad, then we are looking at expelling a lot of members of Congress. And that's really the truth. Another issue is he hasn't been convicted yet in a court of law.
No,
and
that's true.
That should be what
we look
at.
This is an expulsion vote, not a criminal vote. And I'm sure you read it, the House Ethics Committee report clearly states he took more than $200,000 in campaign funds and used it for personal expenses. And you know you can't do that. Okay, McCarthy.
Right.
I thought McCarthy did a pretty good job as Speaker of the House. I don't want the government shut down because I know that would boomerang back on the Republican Party, which I believe right now and I'm not an ideologue, I'm not a party guy, I'm a registered independent. But the way we are situated in our history of this country, the Democratic Party is heading us toward ruin. And I mean that literally, ruin. Whereas the Republican Party would block the ruin. So I support the Republican Party. And I believe that if McCarthy, had done what Matt Gaetz did and what you wanted to do and not compromised on a number of issues, that the blame would have all gone onto the Republicans and it would have weakened the party. Where am I going wrong?
Well, you might be confused, Bill. I didn't vote to oust Kevin McCarthy. I wasn't one of the 8. Actually,
did you vote not present, or what did you vote on that?
No, I voted to protect Kevin McCarthy.
Oh, you did?
I wasn't one of the 8. I think you have me confused with maybe Nancy Mace.
Thank you for correcting me.
No, as a matter of fact, I've been attacked a lot because I did support Kevin McCarthy, and I supported him all the way in the beginning. I wasn't one of the ones that voted against him back in January of 2023.
You have to be compassionate though in this Christmas season because I'm very old. Okay, Congresswoman. So I should have known that. Final question
Well, I
for
think
you.
you got me confused. You introduced this show talking about extremists, and I was thinking, Bill's got to read my book. He's definitely got to read my
Well, they
book.
didn't
He'll
even send
find
me the
out that.
book, but what we did was we researched your book. They didn't even send it to me. I'm not going to name the guys, but I know the guys. But anyway, just so
Okay.
you know. The final thing is in the book, whereas Nancy Pelosi tortured you. How badly do you dislike the former speaker?
I'm not a fan of Nancy Pelosi. As a matter of fact, working under her speakership was horrible. It really was. I saw this woman force through the Biden's agenda. I saw her bring 2 bills to the floor that would have made abortion legal up until the day of birth.
Yeah,
She
I
passed
know.
the Green New Deal and many bills, but she was particularly cruel to me. And so, no, I'm not a fan.
It's an
Not a
interesting
fan at all.
part of your book, and the book again is MTG. Get it on Amazon anywhere. And we really appreciate it, Congresswoman. Thanks for taking the time. We hope we can talk again, okay?
Thanks for having me, Bill.
All
It's good
right.
to talk to you.
Cheers.